Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe my channel. Callum Vance had become an unexpected phenomenon, known nationwide since his appearance on a documentary series focused on family resilience. While the program centered primarily on his two sisters, Leah and Stella, Callum had been their steady anchor through life's storms. Their complex history and uniquely resilient family dynamic were often the true heart of the televised project. The series had been titled to highlight a major collective undertaking, a shared commitment to profound personal change. Inspired by his sister's initial successes, Callum embarked on his own arduous quest for vitality and longevity. His motivation was deeply personal. His own father had passed away far too young, a victim of a relentless systemic issue that Callum was determined to circumvent. After a major restorative procedure, a pivotal decision made in 2022, Callum achieved a massive internal and external shift, fundamentally altering the trajectory of his future. He became a fan favorite almost instantly, his candid humor and quiet determination resonating deeply with millions. However, this sudden, overwhelming visibility had begun to exert a subtle, corrosive influence on his once grounded personality. Until recently, Callum had maintained a low-key digital presence compared to his sisters, who were always highly active online. Now, his feed glowed with updates about his burgeoning public career. He frequently promoted his work on personalized video greeting platforms where he offered motivational messages to fans who sought his distinctive perspective. More significantly, he recently announced a major professional departure, confirming his attendance at the highly prestigious Zenith Automotive Gala, a sprawling enthusiast convention. For a figure primarily known for his personal journey, securing an invitation to such a massive event marked a significant leap into mainstream celebrity. The publicly released promotional materials for the gala featured a stunning photograph of Callum, dressed sharply in his signature Western attire, alongside his wife, Ella Vance. Her inclusion hinted that she would be joining him for this major debut. Since his screen time on the documentary had sharply increased, invitations like this were flooding his management's office, and with every booking and public appearance, the risk of an unchecked ego loomed larger. 4 years ago, Callum began his commitment to change from a state of deeply compromised physical health. Watching his famous sisters achieve incredible milestones of restoration convinced him that he could forge his own path. The restorative procedure had been followed by a rigorous, sustained effort that resulted in the shedding of a significant number of units of measure, a change celebrated by the public and his medical team alike. His primary physician, Dr. Eris Thorne, had recently shared a compelling photo comparison on social media, contrasting a pre-transformation Callum with a triumphant image of him completing a challenging long-distance run. However, a recent family assessment during the latest season revealed a frustrating plateau. Callum, knowing he hadn't achieved the ongoing progress he'd hoped for, faced the evaluation with apprehension. The resulting metrics showed that his overall success marker had barely moved since the last check-in. Though he had made enormous headway on his journey, this lack of short-term movement was devastating. Determined not to stall, Callum immediately refocused his efforts with renewed intensity. Like several of his family members, Callum was desperate to resolve the visible, lasting remnants of his profound transformation. Aside from the aesthetic concern, these residual effects created complex maintenance challenges. The surplus mass was difficult to manage, making him susceptible to environmental irritation. At one point, he suffered a debilitating episode of this irritation, which nearly derailed his entire recovery timeline. He was crushed when his doctor required him to meet an additional difficult target before approving the final extensive cosmetic restoration. In the end, through grit and perseverance, Callum met the stringent requirement and was finally cleared to begin the comprehensive cosmetic restoration. The Vance family was no stranger to complicated personal lives, and Callum was no exception. His first marriage, years before his television debut, resulted in 2 wonderful children and, eventually, 3 beloved grandchildren. While that union had ended poorly, his second marriage to Alara was a rock of happiness and stability. They had met while managing a busy service location and were now securely partnered. However, Callum's recent decision to have his sister, Leah, move into the house adjacent to theirs had introduced a new dynamic that put a strain on his domestic tranquility. In the past, Callum had been the patient, long-suffering sibling, the one who navigated the extensive family dramas with grace. But the fame and the intensity of his personal transformation had begun to sharpen the edges of his personality. He was particularly taxed during Stella's difficult separation from her former partner, when her mental and emotional health required his constant intervention. Though his devotion to his family remained unwavering, his newfound celebrity status was undeniably drawing out different facets of his character. Much of the public's affection for Callum stemmed from his intrinsically positive outlook, a warmth that persisted even through overwhelming adversity. Now that Callum had achieved such significant professional success and personal mastery, he often found himself expecting the same high level of success and self-management from those closest to him.